We'll do that. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I have the pleasure to moderate this great panel. And the topic of today is decentralized finance. So I decided to ask the oracle of the 21st century, the new oracle of the 21st century, what decentralized finance, or as it's sometimes called DeFi, what is DeFi? And what the oracle told me is DeFi and cryptocurrency markets are both part of the broader crypto ecosystem, but they have different purposes and characteristics. DeFi is more focused on providing an alternative financial solutions. The cryptocurrency market is more focused on providing a medium of exchange and store value and different types of transactions. DeFi aims to provide a full spectrum of financial services such as lending, borrowing, trading, insurance, and more by using smart contracts of decentralized applications run in the blockchains. The cryptocurrency market is where people buy and sell different types of cryptocurrencies, such as Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc., using exchanges or peer-to-peer platforms. DeFi is powered by cryptocurrencies, especially stablecoins, which are pegged to the fiat currencies or other assets to reduce volatility. So I just wanted to set the stage on that. And obviously, we have different opinions of what DeFi means. But also, let me give you some stats. The total crypto market cap is right now 1.5 billion. The daily trading volume of about 220 exchanges is about 50 billion. It was 150 billion a year ago. Now, specifically in DeFi, one of the interesting things is when you deposit a dollar into a bank, how much of the revenue that dollar produces? By definition, that dollar will produce revenue for the bank. How much of that revenue that the bank receives from that dollar do you get? You get 23%. In DeFi, your dollar, you get 90% of the revenue. Now, right now, there are about $10 billion of outstanding debt in DeFi. In 2021, there were about 20 billion. There's, as the oracle told us, it mostly works under stablecoins. The stablecoin supply, which is like M1, it's about 130 billion. And the daily volume of stablecoins is about 2 billion. So I just wanted to give some sense of the volumes and what is it we're working on. So why don't we start with first, what's about DeFi that has you excited? Why don't we start from here? And then, Alberto, when we get to you, what financial services technology excites you right now?
Perfect. Well, yes, thank you very much. My name is Edwin Mata, the CEO and co-founder of Bricken. And what we're trying to accomplish is tokenization, and we could probably talk about that during the conversation. But in the end, DeFi, it's about how a person, a natural legal person, can acquire certain financial instruments directly without intermediaries. So it's an exciting time because we're used to having all these kind of like intermediary flow, where there's a lot of commissions being made, and the people who wants to get to acquire to the financial instruments does not get all the goods, right? Like you're problem with the bank. I lend money to the bank, they make massive money on my money, pretend that I'm a millionaire, of course. But the important thing is, in the end, my APY on the money that I lend is what now, 0.5, and they say that as a success. Versus when you go into DeFi, you can update that to your APY because you're going directly to the market, and that just amplifies opportunities. Yes, there's a lot of risk. Regulation one, uncertainty one, now we're talking with technology, so obviously there's hacks and everything. But, I mean, it's the early stage of a new era, right, where people can really establish how to benefit from the financial markets directly. And it's something that maybe we did it 100 years ago when there was a P2P and we went directly to the source, and now we had all these intermediaries because the markets, security markets, everything just become way too complex for a person to go directly to the market. But now we're trying to create that new version and say, hey, kind of like, if we are the one earning the money, we should be the one benefiting from lending it to the market, from lending it to the company who needs it, from lending it to the person who wants it. And then we're just creating that new system, which is kind of like, it's my money, it's my benefit. So pretty much on my side, I'm super excited of what is to come on DeFi, regardless of what is the vision currently in the present about cryptocurrencies.
That's,
My pleasure as well. I'm Blas Simon, my head of.
I think, is his mic working? Try it again.
Okay. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. Maybe it was not right. So I'm Blas Simon, like head of capital markets at Orbin, like an alternative investment bank. Well, I mean, DeFi topic in my mind is so wide. But if I have to like kind of make a summary of it, it will be like the
But what has you excited about it?
the access, the speed, the elimination of boundaries, and the capacity of like having like all the access to every product that is available without like the need of any intermediaries on it. So for me, like all the steps that we are going through at this moment. Much better.
Way better.
Welcome.
Welcome. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, all the steps that we are like living nowadays, like as Edwin said, like this is just the beginning. There are just great things to come on it. I think that the democratization of the financial industry, just the elimination of boundaries, always with the step on regulation and all this, like it is like a great step, like for the new creation of the new capital markets that are to come. So, I mean, at this moment, this is a mix of many things. I'm like, so, you know, like I'm on the regulated markets right now, but we have the step as well on the DLT markets. So, I mean, this is just so amazing to live at this moment. So that's what really attracts me.
So I'll go to you, to Alberto in a second, but there are a couple of concepts that you threw out which I'd like to double click on, which is, you said speed. Tell us a little bit more about it. What do you mean by speed?
Well, what I meant the speed is, I mean, at this moment, like we are having some, I mean, DLTs have not solved yet all the problems of the speed that we
For the benefit of the audience, I don't know if everybody knows what DLT is.
Okay, so apologies. Yeah. DLT means like decentralized ledger technology. So at this moment, like for example, like Ethereum is a kind of DLT. Okay, well, it's based on blockchain, which is a DLT. Okay, so at this moment, many DLTs have not the speed of like traditional systems at this moment. This is an evolution that has been happening at the moment. So what I meant the speed is the speed of access to unknown tools. Like at this moment, if you want to invest in whichever company in a remote country, you won't have access through traditional finance, so you will have to go through several banks, several contacts, wherever, but you have this access on the DeFi systems. So that's what I meant with the speed.
Okay.
Not a speed on transaction, that is not yet solved, it will, but on that.
Great. Alberto.
Hi, I'm Alberto Malpeceres, co-founder of Divengo and CEO. We are not into DeFi as a company, but we have been working in corporate finance for the last, 15 years or something like that. Regarding DeFi, what makes me curious is everything that goes beyond lending, especially in your definition. I know that most of the people is looking at lending. I think there are already opportunities to invest and get a bigger portion of the revenue. If you can I don't know, you can invest in Letras del Tesoro in Spain or whatever from your home. That's no problem. There are many more opportunities to invest in different companies. But the thing is that the financial markets are really, really inefficient. So I think there are a lot of opportunities in I don't know, trades or whatever. I don't know, if you want to import something from China, it's a mess with insurance and the Incoterms, you know, the term and whatever, that I think there is a great opportunity for everything that has to do with DeFi or tokenization or all of this. And that makes me curious.
Great. Now, something that you said, Alberto, and also Blas, is the efficiency of no intermediaries. Tell us a little bit, the three of you, whoever wants to start, what does that mean, that there are no intermediaries? And why is it that you can have no intermediaries?
All right. I mean, the beauty of this is kind of like we're going through a revolution which is based on technology. So we're dependent on that technology because so many tasks are being performed, obviously, by other companies who have to become the intermediary in a process of you hitting the security market, you hitting the lending market. But now, instead of those intermediaries or those companies who tell you how things are going to go and they just give you the revenue back or the connection or whatever you're trying to do, now you shoot it directly into the DLT, which is the blockchain. So there's something called a protocol, which is what is built on blockchain, which allows you to really lend directly your money to the technology. And the technology, that's why I believe he was also saying about the efficiency and speed, because it becomes borderless. It just becomes relentless. You lend the money directly to the protocol, which is how you lending money to the technology. But right now, everybody is trying to use AI, so are we so crazy to say like maybe the best mechanism is the technology itself being the middleman? So this is kind of like the answer that we were trying to provide when we go into the DeFi. Because you being intermediately less just means that you are directly reacting to the technology, which is doing everything on their own, and then pulling it back for you to lend the money and then get the revenue back or claim your dividends or claim your interest. So that's the beauty of it, or how I see it, is just because the intermediary itself just become a technology whose whole reason of existence is what it was built for that specific use case. So it's kind of like you really built a machine that can become the intermediary that used to be a company looking into their own pockets, because the protocol itself doesn't have any pockets, it's just technology.
So just to add on that, like I will just focus a bit more on the capital markets, which is my expertise. If we go to nowadays, on a regular transaction, I think we have like 7 parties, like the seller, the custodian, the settlement, the bank, the agent, like we have all these parties, so that can be just substituted by like, which is a protocol and which is called also smart contracts. At this moment, like a settlement is normally done in like in T+2, and this can lead us to T0. So, I mean, it's not just the speed, but also like the erasement of all the problems that may arise on all these little steps. Probably Alberto has more knowledge on the payments and on the freed of funds, but like, it's all that what I meant with the speed. I mean, it's just, you can do it like just by writing down the protocol, by writing down the smart contract, just making that programmed, and it will go by itself.
Okay. Now, Alberto, you come more from the, as some people call it, the CFI, the centralized finance world, the more traditional world. Do you look forward for intermediaries to go away? I mean, they are telling us that no intermediaries is great. Do you look forward for that day?
Yeah, of course.
Why?
Why?
Aren't they great?
I don't know. I maybe because I also expect some kind of transparency that we don't have. And I must say that also in the traditional finance, this is happening. For example, if you are used to use Bizum or whatever instant transfer protocol, there are some central banks providing a new network because of the banking community is not always open as they should be. So I think it's the way to go. But I find that DeFi is probably the step that is needed beyond the localization, because globalization is everywhere, but in terms of traditional finance, it doesn't exist. And that is something that we need to solve in order to operate globally.
Great. So, Erwin and Blas, you threw out two important terms. You call it protocol, you call it smart contracts, which in many ways is the same. What's a smart contract? I mean, it sounds really smart, but what is it? How does it operate?
I mean, like, as I learned it, like, as first, like, so many years ago, well, I really love, like, playing with Excel at the moment, so, like, it's basically just a set of, like, programs and, like, conditionals and everything that just, like, free the things when the things are, like, matching. I mean, let's say you have to do a transaction, okay? And I mean, you want to sell for 1,000, and you put yourself on a list, and well, there's another one that wants to buy for 1,000. So when the conditions matches, just the funds are freed, and everything is just starting at that moment. So that's like, long story short, that's what is a smart contract. Underneath that, probably Edwin can give us more light on it.
Well, no, it's just programmable objective executions. That's it. You just program something to go from A to B or B to C, so it has to always be an objective type of thing. I just want to establish that it comes to the term, or at least not anymore that much, but it was like, is it like a contract like the lawyers write? No, it's not. It's a technological program like the one that you run to execute Word, except like here, you program it for whatever you need. And the fact that it's in a distributed layer, you don't need to go to an owner of data, because the data is spread throughout all these machines and whatnot. So it kind of allows you to just program things without the requirement of a middleman, because you just go directly to the execution phase. But in the end, it's just it's a program. I mean, it's just tech people coding. That's it. It's code.
Now, if it's a program, can it be hackable? Can somebody go in and change that smart contract? These days we're afraid of all these things. We hear hacks all the time. I mean, how secure is this? How secure is this smart contract? As you said, it's a program that defines how that transaction will be settled.
Of course.
Right? Can somebody go in and change that so that transaction is settled differently?
Yeah. Just gonna have my 2 cents and then say, as long as humans are the ones programming, there's human viability of error. So you always have to take into consideration that. Doesn't matter how many times you audit the contract, you test it, there's human interaction in the back, and humans by default tend to make mistakes, and that's fine. So yes, every single technology out there, it's hackable. Let's not pretend that it's the safest or not. So yes, of course.
As Edwin said, I totally agree, this is hackable. That's why there are so many audits of all the protocols and all the coding. But I think it's also worth mentioning here, the difference between what I like to call decentralized or centralized. I mean, depending on the protocol, depending on the product you are doing, all this coding and all the nodes based on it, can be centralized or not. And depending on that, also the security and the access to those ledgers, are bigger or not, and the security is weaker or stronger.
Okay. Now, Alberto, I'm hearing that this is great technology, the stable, the smart contracts, the protocols, the speed, the lack of intermediaries. But if we go specifically to the biggest use today in DeFi, which is lending, the outstanding portfolio is $10 billion. I mean, from the grand scheme of financial services and the financial services market, it's tiny.
Peanuts.
Maybe not even peanuts. So why, if it's so great, why it's peanuts? Why do you think it hasn't grown faster?
Well, it takes time. Companies have been out there for the last, 600 years or something like that, from the company of the Indias in Netherlands and so on. So they are used to work in a way, and this technology is new. So right now they have the feeling, this security feeling with this traditional way, because they have the feeling that if they are working with banks, they have a counterpart in another country that can say that someone is going to pay you, and this technology still needs some kind of backup in this part, to create trust from the other part, and I'm sure we are going to solve that in the future. So, but it's only 5 years or something like that. It's not.
Now, Erwin and Blas, how easy it is to do a DeFi transaction, specifically lending? Is it something that you can just go into a website and find a counterparty and it's very user-friendly and you can just do it? I mean, today you can buy or sell a crypto very easily in Coinbase or in Binance. But if you want to lend to somebody through DeFi, Is it that easy?
It's getting easier. It's not that easy at the moment.
But from 1 to 10,
I mean, like a 3 or 4.
10 being easier.
No, 3 or 4 probably. No.
So it's not that easy.
No, I mean, for me, like, I mean, I think that you said it like in the previous like talk, but I mean, this has to be easy, like for I don't know, for my mom, like if.
So could your mom do it?
No.
With all respect to your mom.
No, I mean, no, of course, but no, I mean, what I meant this is like you need to do like some kind of research. I mean, you do need as well if you want to go to traditional finance. I mean, it's even though it's easy to go to your bank account and just make the transaction and the purchase of stocks, you need to do some research. But it's not even close to that because you need your wallet, you need to do everything through the different, you have to search all the products that there are, you have to understand them. I mean, if you want to do like not a speculating, just doing like a good transaction, you really need to understand it. And it's not that easy because the information is not like, the flow of the information is not clear. And that's, I think, which is the problem and in which everyone working in the DLTs is working, which is in trying to like make this flow go over like all the markets so that everyone can have access to it. I mean, even though you have access, you need to know things. You cannot have access to what you don't know. So you have these tools which help you go through those products, but you need to understand those products. You need to understand what is underneath that, even though you are agnostic to all the technology and the architecture. So it's not that easy. That's why I say it's 3 or 4 probably, but it's getting easier.
All right, so on this same point, Erwin, let's compare it to the life cycle of the internet. When the internet was born, it wasn't easy to go into the internet. You need to be basically a coder. Until the World Wide Web was born, which for most of you that are here, you weren't even alive when the World Wide Web was born. Some of us were. Where are we there? Is it for DeFi? Is it the World Wide Web already exists, or is it in the time where only coders could operate in the internet?
I mean, let's make an experiment here. How many people of you have cryptocurrencies?
But I'm focusing specifically on DeFi lending, and trying to lend. How many people here have lent through DeFi?
It's not a bad number.
A minority.
It is still a minority, but I mean, we have to understand it from the perspective that, okay, the protocol or DLT has like 12 years of existence, right? So we're saying like, we're growing faster, and the DeFi that we used to have, DeFi is not that old. Actually, it's probably like 7 years old when it started booming. So what we're saying is like probably here we have like 1, 2, 3% that are already trying to apply to DeFi. So it's getting easier because there's a lot of products being made to facilitate the interaction. Because at the beginning, when I entered into crypto 2016, I got lost. I was like, oh, this is crazy. I'm a lawyer. Like, what is happening here? I have no clue. What is a wallet? How do I have to interact? Why do I have to click? Why does it tell me that I have to sign a transaction? There was such much uncertainty, but now we're seeing products that are filling that gap of know-how. And we're getting new innovations and evolutions that allow people from the comfort of their home to go directly to the market with 3 clicks. I mean, 3 clicks for me, it's amazing. There's still kind of like the euphoria that it's too complicated because it's easier to put that than the research process. Oh, it's too complex. Why, have you tried it? And then you ask them, hey, it's too complex. Why, have you tried it? And then you come and say like, no, I never tried it. And it's like, so how do you know it's too complex? Because now we're building a lot of structures around the DLT technology that is making it simpler. So maybe the question is not if it's hard, it's have you tried it? I think that's the first question that people should be asking themselves before judging what is hard or not. Because I can assure you that some of the protocols, it's way simpler than logging into the bank, custodian, they give you all the information. Now the DeFi, you have all the data, and it's hard to get the data because we're not used to having access to all the information. We used to go on a narrow channel where they deploy the information, so we grab a package of their funding deal, whatever, so we just do the narrow data, and here you have everything. If you want to go into DeFi, you can have an aggregator of all the protocols in the world. You can see what is the long-term value. You can see what is happening at all time, 24/7, and that's kind of like booming because we're not used to having all that data. So it's kind of like maybe we should think about, are we dependent because we're getting used to being dependent? Now that we have freedom, we don't like it. So I mean, it's just maybe more of a psychological, sociological answer, I believe.
Okay, so it's impossible to be in a panel about DeFi without talking about regulation. And I know the previous panel talked a little bit about that because this week has been a big week in terms of news about regulation. So you coming, Alberto, you coming from the traditional world, should this be regulated? Will this be regulated? What's going to happen with the regulation? I mean, if you were able to speak to the ear of the commissioner of the SEC, what would you tell him?
Oh, what a question. I mean, I think most of us will agree that there is some need of regulation. The thing is that regulators must be open for a new reality, and this is not happening. And also in the traditional world, I mean, we are a startup doing things with money, and when I talk to the Bank of Spain, they heads explode every time. So I imagine people talking about crypto and DeFi, and maybe there is a need to a change in the regulator, so new people entering the regulator and with an open mind to help on this, because as I said, I think some kind of regulation is needed, but probably not the people who is now deciding about that.
Okay, thanks. Blas and Erwin, 60 seconds each of you on this subject.
Okay, I'll go fast. So I think that there is a need for regulators here, and I think that, as Alberto said, at this moment, this is as I see it, it's like a new technology just pushing the door, getting inside it. At the beginning, I don't think all regulators were really aware of it, and they were thinking it was just fashion or whatever, or a trend. But at this moment, there is a need for this, and I know most of regulators are working on this. They are open-minded. They are showing it with different sandbox where you can try all these applications, where you can just make all these trials in a little controlled space. So I think there is a need for this. There is regulators are moving forward. They are moving slow because these are slow departments. But I mean, this will come, and I think it will be really good news for the industry.
I don't know if there's a panel on sandboxes, but to organizers of the South Summit, if you don't have one next year, you have to have a panel on how sandboxes operate.
Yeah, so I would like to establish that there's no single action in this world that is not abided by the legislation. Because people tend to think it's illegal or there's no regulation to apply. But in the theory of law, there's always application by analogy, similitude, and whatever, right? So in that sense, everything that happened in blockchain, it already had a regulation. So you were applying something that was similar, but that creates uncertainty. But it's super clear that every single action in this world, there's a regulation to be applied to. The fact is that now there's going through specialization, because there was so much uncertainty in gray areas that the regulators had to come in and say okay, now we need to deep dive because A is not the same as C, and everybody's doing the same thing because they're all applying their own legislations, analogies, so it became kind of like a mess. And that's when they got the courage to say okay guys, I guess we have to regulate because things are getting a little bit nuts here. So now we're going through that specialization phase. We're seeing the updates in security markets law. Spain just had one, Italy had one, Germany is about to go one, Japan had a new directive. I mean, we're going all over the world saying, what is happening with the DLT? Security markets are going to be running on tokenization. We're seeing that stock exchange is being created, DLT pilot regime here in Europe. So do we need regulation? We already have regulation. I would like to say is we need a specific regulation. So all of us players building in this space don't have to confront the regulator every once in a while and say, yeah, we already talked about this. We have everything under control. You gave us this indication. Because they didn't even know. They were like, yeah, but my opinion last month kind of changed because then this half factor came. And it's like, you cannot change because my business does not change. I'm not already lean, I'm a company. I need to know what is the fact. I need to know how to move. So now we're going to see what's going to happen with Coinbase, Binance fighting the SEC, because this is what the SEC did. The SEC was just pivoting, saying, no, they like me here, I'm going to go here. They like me here, I'm going to go here, and I'm going to attack the main players. And now we're going to see what's going to happen. So my belief is by the end of this, the SEC is going to regulate deeply because they're going to be forced to. They have to put their toes on the water, or whatever the expression is.
Great. So join me in thanking this great panel.